Saltmarsh, like many coastal settlements, bustled with life and burgeoning industry. Nestled beside the wild, bountiful ocean, it beckoned with opportunities for the bold. The salty tang of brine mingled with the enticing aromas of freshly cooked fish and baked bread, filling the air with promise. Simon Jones was born in Saltmarsh, bred from a lineage of fishermen and sailors who knew every tide and current like the back of their hands. His father, Thomas, a stern yet fair man, was the captain of a small fishing vessel, and his mother, Eliza, was a healer who tended to the town's sick and injured. From a young age, Simon was captivated by the sea. He would often sit on the docks, watching the ships come and go, dreaming of the adventures that lay beyond the horizon. Simon's small hands worked the ropes with practiced ease. His fingers danced through complex knots, as if playing a well-rehearsed tune. "That's a mackerel, Dad!" he called out with an unwavering pride that came from proving to his father his knowledge. A smile tugged at his father's lips as he nodded in approval. The salty breeze ruffled Simon's hair, filling him with a sense of accomplishment and belonging. Every evening Simon found himself drawn to the tavern, his wide eyes gleaming as he listened to grizzled sailors recounting their adventures. He leaned in closer, heart pounding as they spoke of navigating through storms and encountering creatures of legend. The sailors recognized a kindred spirit in the eager boy. They would encourage him with stories of their own beginnings, fostering his dream of one day becoming a sailor. At 18, Simon, now a capable young man, decided to pursue his dreams. He bid farewell to his parents and sought out Captain Horace Granger, the esteemed leader of the merchant ship, the Seafarer. Captain Granger was a formidable figure. He looked Simon up and down, assessing his potential with a discerning eye. "Why do you want to join my crew, lad?" the captain asked, his voice a gravelly rumble. Known for his keen judgment, Granger eyed Simon critically. "Why do you want to join my crew, lad?" he asked again. Simon met his gaze. "I want to explore the world and bring back tales of adventure. I believe I can be a valuable member of your crew." The captain nodded. "We leave at dawn. Be here on time." With those words, Simon's journey began. He spent the night in restless excitement, packing his belongings and saying his goodbyes. His parents offered him their blessings, along with a few words of wisdom. "Remember, Simon," his father said, "the sea is as dangerous as it is beautiful. Respect it. If you don't, she'll turn on you." The Seafarer was a magnificent vessel, its sturdy hull and billowing sails a testament to the craftsmanship of its builders. The crew was a diverse group of seasoned sailors, each with their own stories and skills. Simon quickly found his place among them, eager to prove himself and earn their respect. The life of a sailor was demanding, but Simon embraced the challenges with determination and enthusiasm. He spent his days learning the intricate art of navigation, mastering the use of the sextant and compass under the guidance of the ship's navigator, Mr. Blythe. He also learned to read the stars and clouds, predicting the weather with uncanny accuracy. The nights were filled with camaraderie and the sharing of stories. Simon would often take the night watch, standing at the helm as the ship cut through the dark waters. He felt a deep sense of peace and belonging, knowing that he was part of something greater than himself. Over the years, Simon's reputation as a skilled sailor and brave navigator grew. He became a trusted member of the crew, known for his quick thinking and unwavering courage in the face of danger. He earned the respect and friendship of his crewmates, forming bonds that would last a lifetime. The Seafarer's crew, a tight-knit family, navigated the seas with shared purpose. Old Jack's weathered hands mended sails and spirits alike, while Mary Mad Dog Sullivan's hearty stews and sharp tongue kept everyone on their toes. Elias, the doctor, with his steady hands and calming presence, was the ship's anchor in stormy times. Captain Granger, though stern, was a just and honourable leader. He recognised Simon's potential and took him under his wing, teaching him the finer points of leadership and seamanship. Simon absorbed every lesson, eager to one day earn a command of his own. During one of the Seafarer's many voyages, fate brought Simon to the bustling town of Freeport. It was here that he met Emily, a spirited and kind-hearted woman who worked as a seamstress in the town's market. Simon was immediately drawn to her laughter and warmth, and the two quickly formed a deep connection. Their courtship was a whirlwind of stolen moments and heartfelt letters exchanged during Simon's absences. Emily's love and support became an anchor for Simon, grounding him amidst the tumultuous sea. They married in a small, joyous ceremony, attended by Simon's crewmates and Emily's family. Shortly after their marriage, Simon and Emily welcomed a daughter named Lily into the world. The birth of his daughter filled Simon with a sense of profound purpose and responsibility. Though his love for the sea remained strong, he now had a family to think of, and he vowed to protect and provide for them, no matter the cost. Balancing his duties as a sailor with his responsibilities as a husband and father was no easy task, but Simon managed it with unwavering dedication. Whenever the Seafarer docked in Freeport, Simon would rush home to spend cherished time with Emily and Lily. He treasured these moments, knowing how fleeting they could be. Emily sat by the dim embers of the fireplace, her needle deftly moving through the fabric of Lily's new dress. Each stitch was a silent prayer for Simon's safe return. Dark circles framed her once bright eyes, now shadowed by the worry that gnawed at her heart. She glanced out the window, the moonlight tracing the horizon. "Please let him come back to us," she whispered, the words falling like stitches into the quiet night. Their letters kept the flame of their love burning brightly, bridging the distance between their hearts. Simon's crewmates also became an extended family to Emily and Lily. They would visit when the Seafarer was in port, bringing stories and gifts from distant lands. Lily grew up surrounded by these larger-than-life figures, each one contributing to her childhood with tales of adventure and kindness. Despite his deep love for Emily and Lily, the call of the horizon never faded for Simon. He continued to sail with the Seafarer, each voyage bringing new wonders and challenges. From the deep blue waters of the Southern Isles to the icy seas of the Northlands, Simon encountered strange creatures, treacherous storms, and lost civilizations. Captain Granger often relied on Simon's knowledge and intuition, sending him on scouting missions and trusting his judgment in critical situations. Simon's loyalty to the captain and the crew never wavered, and he faced each obstacle with the same determination that had driven him since childhood. But even as he explored the far reaches of the world, Simon always carried with him a piece of home. The locket around his neck, bearing a picture of Emily and Lily, served as a constant reminder of the love and life that awaited him in Freeport. As the years passed, Simon's reputation continued to grow. He was known for his ability to navigate through the fiercest tempests, and his tales of skills spread far and wide. Despite the accolades and the respect he earned, Simon remained humble, ever mindful of the lessons his father had taught him. When Captain Granger announced a new voyage to explore uncharted waters and seek untold riches, Simon felt the familiar thrill of adventure coursing through him. The promise of discovering the unknown was an irresistible lure, and he eagerly joined the crew in preparing for the journey. But this voyage was different. Emily stood by the window, her fingers gripping the fabric of her dress tightly as she gazed out at the horizon. A shiver ran down her spine, an unexplainable heaviness settling over her heart like a shadow she couldn't banish. As Simon prepared his gear for the journey, she stood by the window, her eyes tracing the horizon where the sea met the sky. "Simon," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "I know the sea calls to you, but this time feels different." Simon paused, looking up from his packing. He could see the worry etched on her face, the way her hands gripped the fabric of her dress. He walked over to her, gently placing his hands on her shoulders. "Emily, we've talked about this. It's just another voyage," he said, trying to sound reassuring. "No, it's not," she whispered, turning to face him. Her eyes, usually so full of warmth, were now clouded with fear. "I feel something. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like a shadow over my heart. The sea has taken so much time from us already." Simon felt a pang of guilt. He knew she was thinking of the long months of worry and waiting, the dangers he faced with every journey. "You have to trust me," he said softly, pulling her into an embrace. "I promise you I will return." Emily leaned into him, her voice muffled against his chest. "The ocean is vast and unpredictable. What if this time you don't come back? I couldn't bear to lose you." Simon stroked her hair, feeling the weight of her words settle heavily on his heart. He pulled back slightly, lifting her chin so she could meet his gaze. "Emily," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "I have to do this, not just for the adventure, but for our future. The riches we find could secure a better life for you and Lily." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes, but she nodded slightly. "I know you believe that," she said, her voice breaking, "but promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you'll come back to us." Simon cupped her face in his hands, his thumb brushing away a tear. "I will. I swear with all my heart. I'll come back to you and Lily. No matter what it takes, I'll come back." Emily searched his eyes, looking for the certainty she desperately needed. Finally she nodded, wrapping her arms tightly around him. "Then go, and may the sea bring you back to us safely." With a heavy heart, Simon kissed her forehead, holding on to the hope that his promises would withstand the trials that lay ahead. With a tear in her eye, Emily nodded, understanding the depth of Simon's conviction. Tears glistened in Emily's eyes as she kissed Simon goodbye, the weight of his promise heavy on her heart. She clung to the hope that he would return to their loving embrace, despite the shadow of unease lingering in the air. The morning of their departure was a scene of organised chaos, the docks of Freeport thrumming with the energy of a new adventure. The Seafarer, with its sails billowing proudly, was glorious in the early light. Crew members bustled about, securing provisions, checking lines, and preparing the ship for what promised to be an exhilarating journey. Excitement buzzed through the air, mingling with the briny scent of the sea. Simon Jones moved with purpose, his heart a mixture of anticipation and unease. Emily's worried eyes and Lily's hopeful smile lingered in his mind as he made his final preparations. He clutched the locket around his neck, taking solace in the thought of returning to his family with tales of adventure and newfound wealth. Captain Granger, standing at the helm, cast a watchful eye over his crew, his stern expression masking a similar blend of emotions. With the sun rising behind them, casting long shadows over the harbour, Captain Granger gave the order to set sail. The Seafarer creaked and groaned as it pulled away from the dock, its crew breaking into a chorus of sea shanties to mark the beginning of their voyage. As they left the familiar shores of Freeport behind, Simon looked back one last time, silently vowing to return to Emily and Lily, no matter what lay ahead. For the first leg of the journey, the waters were familiar and calm. Simon and his crewmates fell into their routines, their movements a well-practiced dance honed by years of sailing together. The air was filled with laughter and camaraderie, the anticipation of adventure overshadowing any latent fears. Simon, ever diligent, spent his time mapping their course, consulting charts and studying the skies and seas. As they ventured further from familiar ports, he felt a growing sense of trepidation. The Seafarer's destination lay beyond the edges of known maps, in uncharted waters where tales whispered of untold riches and unknown dangers. Days turned into weeks, and the Seafarer sailed steadily onward. The crew's excitement was tempered with caution as they began to notice subtle changes in the environment. The once bustling waters grew quieter, the marine life less abundant. Shadows seemed to lengthen, and the very air itself felt heavier. Old Jack muttered about the calm before the storm, his weathered face etched with concern. Captain Granger, ever vigilant, took note of these changes but pressed onward. He trusted his crew and believed in their mission. However, even the most seasoned sailor could not ignore the growing sense of unease that settled over the ship like a shroud. The waters grew darker, an almost imperceptible shift that played tricks on the eyes. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and cast a blood-red hue across the sky, Simon stood at the helm, his gaze fixed on the endless expanse of water before them. He felt a chill run down his spine, an instinctual warning that something was amiss. Turning to Captain Granger, he voiced his concerns. "The waters are changing, Captain. It's as if the sea itself is warning us to turn back." Captain Granger nodded thoughtfully, his expression grave. "We've come too far to turn back now, Simon. Whatever lies ahead, we will face it together. Keep a sharp watch and trust in your skills. The sea may be treacherous, but we are prepared." Simon nodded, though the unease in his heart remained. Over the span of a 10-day, Simon sensed the subtle shifts. The lively chatter of the crew grew quieter as the air thickened with an unspoken dread. Even the ocean seemed to breathe uneasily, its vibrant blues tainted with creeping shadows. "Is it just me? Or does the sea feel different?" old Jack muttered, clutching his talisman. Simon nodded, a shiver tracing his spine as he scanned the horizon, feeling a dark, unseen eye upon him. Fish and other sea creatures became scarce, the once alive waters now eerily still and silent. The crew grew more subdued, their laughter and songs replaced by whispered conversations and anxious glances. The sky above mirrored the sea below, growing darker and more oppressive with each passing day. Clouds gathered and thickened, blocking out the sun and casting a perpetual twilight over the ship. Simon's keen eye for navigation became essential as natural markers and celestial guides disappeared in the gloom. The crew had gathered on the deck, lantern light casting long shadows. Old Jack, a grizzled and weathered man, leaned against a barrel, pipe in hand. His eyes, shadowed beneath heavy brows, gleamed with the knowledge of countless voyages. He took a deep draw from his pipe, exhaling slowly. "You lads ever hear of the dark water?" he began, his voice a gravelly rumble. "Ain't the sort of tale you hear in the taverns? It's a legend among sailors," whispered in hushed tones when the sea grows too still. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Jack continued, his tone sombre. "Years ago I sailed on the Widow's Lament. We ventured into waters no map could chart, where the sea turned lifeless grey and the creatures vanished. We laughed it off, called it the calm before the storm, but deep down we knew." He paused, the weight of his memories heavy. One night the water around us grew impossibly dark, like the sea's very soul had turned against us. No moon, no stars, just a void that swallowed all light. Then the water began to churn, and from that darkness they emerged. Tentacles made of shadows darker than the abyss. They wrapped around the ship, pulling her under. Jack's voice trembled. "I survived by sheer luck, washed ashore half mad. But I've never forgotten those dark waters or the cries of my lost crewmates, swallowed by a darkness that seemed alive, hungry." He fixed his gaze on the crew, the gravity of his tale clear. "Remember this, lads, the sea is vast and full of wonders, but it's also home to unimaginable horrors. Respect the darkness, for it holds secrets that can unravel even the bravest of souls." With that, he fell silent, the ember of his pipe the only light in the growing gloom. The crew sat in uneasy silence, contemplating the shadows lurking just beyond their sight and the dark water that threatened to consume them all. Despite their growing fears, the crew remained steadfast. They had weathered many storms together, and their bond was unbreakable. Captain Granger's leadership and Simon's skill as a navigator were the twin beacons guiding them through the encroaching darkness. The days blurred together as the Seafarer ventured deeper into the dark water. The crew's unease grew with each passing hour, their nerves stretched thin by the unrelenting gloom. The absence of familiar sounds and sights left them feeling isolated and vulnerable. Sleep became elusive, haunted by nightmares of shadowy figures and unseen terrors lurking just beyond their vision. Simon's mind raced with questions and doubts. What forces could turn the ocean into such a desolate place? Were they truly chasing untold riches, or had they ventured into a deadly trap set by unknown entities? His resolve to return to Emily and Lily fueled his determination to navigate these treacherous waters. Captain Granger, sensing the growing anxiety among his crew, called a meeting on the deck. The sailors gathered, their faces drawn and eyes anxious. The captain addressed them with a commanding presence, his voice cutting through the oppressive silence. "We've faced many dangers together, and we've always prevailed. These waters are strange, but we are stronger than any fear. Trust in each other and in our mission. We will find our way through this darkness and return home with stories to tell and riches to share." His words brought some comfort to the crew, but the sense of dread lingered. As the meeting concluded, Simon took his place at the helm, his eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of danger. The ship moved forward, a lone vessel in an ocean of shadows, its crew bound by determination and the thin thread of hope. One night, as the Seafarer cut through the still waters, Simon noticed a peculiar change. The ocean, already unnaturally calm, grew unsettlingly motionless. The air felt thick and charged, like the moments before a lightning strike. The silence was deafening, broken only by the eerie creaking of the ship's timbers. Simon's unease grew into a gnawing fear. He sought out Captain Granger, finding him in the captain's quarters, poring over maps and charts. The captain looked up, his eyes reflecting the same concern that gnawed at Simon. "It's too quiet, Captain. Something's coming. I can feel it." Captain Granger nodded, his jaw set in determination. "Keep everyone on high alert. We are prepared for anything that comes our way." Simon relayed the captain's orders, and the crew readied themselves for whatever lay ahead. Tension crackled in the air, each sailor acutely aware of the mounting dread that had settled over the ship. The following day dawned with an oppressive darkness that seemed to swallow any hint of light. The air was heavy with an unnameable dread, and even the smallest sounds felt magnified in the uneasy silence. As the day wore on, the murky waters around the Seafarer grew darker still, an inky blackness that defied comprehension. The crew whispered among themselves, wondering if they had sailed into the very heart of an ancient curse. Simon, stationed at the helm, felt a shiver run down his spine. The black water was unlike anything he had ever seen, darker than the deepest abyss, an all-consuming void that seemed to draw in light and hope. As twilight fell, the sky and sea became indistinguishable, merging into a vast expanse of darkness. The crew, driven by a sense of foreboding, gathered on the deck, their eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of danger. Simon stood alongside Captain Granger, their expressions grim and resolute. Without warning, the water around the Seafarer began to churn, the stillness giving way to violent turbulence. The ocean roiled and frothed, and an unnatural wind whipped across the deck, sending sailors scrambling to secure lines and sails. Simon's heart hammered in his chest as he fought to keep the ship steady. The ship groaned and shuddered as if the very sea itself was trying to tear it apart. And then, from the depths of the black water they surfaced, tendrils forged from shadows darker than the deepest abyss. The tentacles rose slowly at first, nearly imperceptible against the pitch-black sea, but as they grew in size and number, their sheer magnitude became terrifyingly clear. They were impossibly long and twisted, writhing and coiling like serpents made of shadow. A collective gasp went up from the crew as the dark appendages reached toward the Seafarer. Simon felt a cold primal fear grip his heart as he realized the true extent of the danger they faced. These were no ordinary tentacles, they were manifestations of darkness itself, an otherworldly force that defied explanation. Captain Granger's voice rang out, cutting through the chaos. "To arms! Defend the ship!" The crew sprang into action, drawing weapons and preparing to fight, but their efforts seemed futile against the overwhelming force that sought to pull them into the abyss. The tendrils coiled around the vessel, their hold unnaturally powerful, and began to drag the Seafarer down. Simon's mind raced with thoughts of Emily and Lily as he fought to keep the ship afloat. He slashed at the tentacles with his sword, but the darkness seemed impervious to their attacks. The ship groaned and buckled under the immense pressure, and sailors were thrown from their feet as the deck tilted dangerously. As the Seafarer was pulled deeper into the dark water, the sense of dread and despair became suffocating. The darkness encroached, making Simon's heart pound like a drumbeat of despair. Each engulfing shadow tugged at his soul, whispering promises of his doom. The cries of his crewmates faded into the abyss, replaced by an ominous symphony of a dark, malevolent laughter. A chilling dread twisted within him. In a final, desperate effort, Captain Granger barked orders to abandon ship. Sailors scrambled to lower lifeboats, but the appendages obstructed their attempts, crushing the small vessels and sailors with horrifying effortlessness. As the ship groaned under the assault of the shadowy tentacles, Simon's grip tightened on the helm. Images of Emily's warm smile and Lily's joyful laughter flashed in his mind, fortifying his will to cut through the darkness that sought to engulf them. But the darkness was relentless. The tentacles tightened their grip, and the Seafarer was pulled beneath the surface, swallowed whole by the black water. Simon felt himself being dragged down. His lungs burned for air as he fought against the inescapable pull, his vision dimming. When Simon regained consciousness, he found himself in a strange and surreal environment. The wreckage of the Seafarer surrounded him, suspended in a pocket of air within the depths. The darkness pressed in on all sides, a living force that seemed to pulse with malevolent intent. Disoriented and gasping for breath, Simon struggled to make sense of his surroundings. The remnants of the ship floated around him, illuminated by an eerie, otherworldly glow that seemed to emanate from the very fabric of the darkness. In the centre of the wreckage, Simon's gaze was drawn to a peculiar sight, a glowing rift, a portal to another dimension. The rift pulsated with an unnatural light, casting strange shadows on the surrounding debris. As Simon approached the rift, he felt a powerful force tugging at his very soul. The rift was a gateway to the far realm, an alien dimension of chaos and madness that defied all known laws of reality. It seemed to pulse with a life of its own, drawing Simon inexorably closer. An otherworldly voice surged into Simon's mind, like a chorus of drowned souls, carrying an ominous resonance. "Welcome, mortal. You have wandered far from the light." Simon recoiled, clutching his head as the chilling voice resonated within him. "Who? Who are you? Drevar the Dark Devourer," the voice spoke within Simon's head, its words reverberating with an eerie echo of countless drowned souls. "You have entered my domain, and now you shall serve me." Simon's mind churned with fear and confusion. "Serve you? Why would I do that?" Drevar's voice grew even darker, more oppressive. "Because you have no choice. Your ship is lost, your crew taken by the abyss. But I can yet spare you. I can grant you power, strength beyond mortal ken. In return, you will fulfill my demands." Simon struggled against the overwhelming presence, but the eldritch energy seeped into his core, warping his thoughts. What do you want from me?" "Harvest life force from the weak to appease my endless hunger," Drevar commanded, each word thrumming with dark authority. "Spread fear and terror, and let madness seep into the hearts of mortals. This is your new purpose." Simon's heart pounded, the faces of Emily and Lily flashing in his mind. "I will do what you ask," he said through gritted teeth, "but I will not harm my wife and daughter or anyone that I love." Simon had heard cautionary tales of deals with demons before. Drevar's laughter echoed like a cacophony of drowned voices, chilling Simon to the bone. "Very well, mortal, you may twist the demands as you see fit, but remember, my hunger is unending and you will feed me one way or another," Drevar warned in a condescending tone. "Embrace the darkness, let your light be consumed. My power courses through you, use it wisely, or be consumed by it." The connection was immediate and overwhelming. An eldritch power surged into Simon, filling him with both incredible strength and unbearable torment. His mind linked with Drevar's, and he felt the entity's insatiable hunger and malevolent will. The pact with Drevar was both a gift and a curse. The eldritch power that flowed into Simon granted him abilities beyond mortal comprehension, but it also came with a heavy price. His mind and body were forever changed, twisted by the dark influence of the far realm. Simon's eyes transformed into solid, soulless orbs of black, his skin turned cold and grey like that of a drowned corpse. His mind swirled with visions of chaos and madness, tainted by Drevar's dark influence. The otherworldly power of Drevar was now inextricably linked to his very existence. Though the darkness threatened to consume him, Simon's determination to return to Emily and Lily kept him anchored. Drawing upon his newfound powers, he fought his way through the wreckage, seeking a way to escape the inky depths. The journey to the surface was arduous and perilous, the eldritch energy of the far realm battling against his will. But Simon's resolve was unbreakable. Inch by inch, he ascended through the dark water, driven by the memory of his family and the promise he had made. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Simon broke through the surface and gasped for air. The black water receded, leaving him battered and disoriented on the shores near Freeport. The man who emerged from the ocean was forever changed, his soul marked by the abyss that had claimed the Seafarer. Simon Jones was no more. The man who now walked the streets of Saltmarsh was known as Darkwater, a symbol of the darkness that had fundamentally altered him. His appearance was that of a pale, drowned corpse, his mind haunted by visions of the deep, the cries of his fellow sailors that were lost that dark day, and the remnants of Drevar's influence. As Darkwater, he roamed the streets as an urchin, scavenging to survive. He stayed close to the sea and docks. Then one day he saw them, Emily and Lily. Maintaining his distance, Darkwater trailed behind in the familiar streets, his heart aching as he gazed upon Emily and Lily from afar. Emily's laughter as she comforted Lily was a bittersweet melody, dredging up memories of a life that now felt impossibly distant. He longed to rush to their side, to hold them both and reassure them that he had returned. But he feared his appearance would bring them only terror. Emily and Lily found themselves alone in a quiet alley as twilight descended upon them. Their path home was illuminated by the dwindling light. From the shadows emerged two sinister figures, their intentions clear. The muggers advanced, knives gleaming in the fading light. "Ahoy, puppet!" "And over your valuables, and no one needs to get hurt," one of the muggers snarled, his voice dripping with menace. Emily clutched Lily, her heart pounding with fear. "Please, we have nothing valuable," she pleaded, shielding her daughter with her body. The second mugger grabbed Emily's arm, yanking her away from Lily. "Surely a pretty lass like yourself has something sweet for me appetite," he growled, his eyes gleaming with lustful intent. From his hidden vantage point, Darkwater felt a surge of rage and despair. His family was in danger, and he could not stand idly by. Summoning the dark power that Drevar had bestowed upon him, he flung open his cloak, revealing the writhing black tendrils that snaked around his body. With lightning speed, Darkwater lunged at the attackers. Dark tendrils burst from his cloak, writhing toward the muggers with a life of their own. His voice, now a deep, resonant baritone tinged with echoes of countless drowned souls, filled the alley. "Leave them be, or face a fate worse than death." The muggers barely had time to react. The tentacles coiled around the first attacker, lifting him off his feet and thrashing him against the wall with a sickening thud. The second mugger turned to flee, but Darkwater's eyes locked onto him with an eerie, otherworldly darkness. The man felt the madness of the deep Darkwater's voice reverberating in his head with the sound of the countless drowned victims of Drevar. The mugger's eyes widened in terror as visions of chaos and despair flooded his mind. He clutched his head, screaming as the madness took hold, his sanity unravelling in the presence of Darkwater's eldritch influence. Emily and Lily stood frozen, their eyes wide with horror as they watched the monstrous figure that had come to their defence. Darkwater, realising the fear he had instilled in them, turned away, anguish ripping through his heart. He could not bear to see the terror in their eyes, to know that he had become something they would fear. He fled into the shadows, his cloak billowing around him like a dark shroud. Finding refuge in a deserted alley, he sank to his knees, the adrenaline leaving him trembling and breathless. The events replayed in his mind, each moment a painful reminder of the chasm now separating him from his family. His thoughts turned inward, grappling with the reality of his transformation. "I am a monster," he thought, despair washing over him. "But I can still choose how to use this darkness. I will become a defender of the innocent, a shadow that hunts those who prey on the weak." He looked down at his hands, dripping with thick black liquid. "One day I will find a way to rid myself of this curse. I will earn the right to stand in the light with Emily and Lily again. Until then, I will use these powers to protect those who cannot protect themselves. I will be their dark guardian, their shield in the shadows."